And in America, it's like this concept of, well, I am what I do for a living, like I am a doctor or I am a coach. It's not like I practice coaching or I do coaching, And so I think there's a little bit of that in the culture here that like whatever you're doing, that is your entire being. And so I think to like take a step back and realize like, okay, you only have to really be energized and like love what you're doing maybe 20-30% of the day.
So welcome to the Meaningful Jobs podcast season 2. I'm your host, Adrian, and today we're extremely honored to welcome Lisa, who is a career coach, to our podcast to talk a little bit about her career and how she got to this stage in her life. So how are you doing, Lisa? I hope you're well.
Yes, very well. Thank you so much. Hope you're doing well too, Adrian.
Yeah, doing really good, thanks. So, just before we started the recording, I and Lisa were talking a little bit about, how she got into where she is in her career, and she actually didn't start off as most coaches do, I guess, not as a coach, but as somebody who's in content before. So can you tell us a little bit about how you started off your career and your I think you talked about your husband's military background as well, which played, a significant factor in your career.
Yes, certainly. So I was in journalism. I was kind of traveling. I don't know about the world, but I went back to Italy where I grew up. And then I came back to America,
Mm.
whisked away into the military lifestyle, and wound up having, a bunch of kids and left the full-time workforce to do freelance and consulting kind of work. And then hired a coach after I was in content marketing for a little while and decided, you know what, I really love doing this I would really love to be a part of this world. And my husband was retiring from the military at the time. Actually would have been a great type of military spouse work to do career coaching because it's very mobile. You can, take it anywhere you go and it's pretty universal. But left the full-time corporate life in April to pursue my coaching full time after I got my certification from the International Coaching Federation. So, yep, been on my own and loving it.
So it's been a long journey, it seems. And I was quite surprised when you said you got into content at first, because I don't think that's a
Mm.
typical route that coaches take, going from content
Yeah.
to coaching. So yeah, can you tell us a little bit about why you got into content?
Yeah, sure. So, journalism, kind of a natural progression, I guess, would be to go into content marketing once you're sick of seeing some small paychecks after a number of years. But I did write a
At least you
piece
stayed
in
for a
Fast
couple.
Company.
At least you stayed
Yeah,
for a
sorry.
couple of years, I guess.
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah. I was in journalism probably for about 10-15 years on and off, freelancing, but also full time at the Boston Phoenix, at a TV station in Oklahoma City, like lots of different places. But then I wrote a piece, a freelance piece in Fast Company, and a startup CEO who was also in the military, or sorry, he was a veteran. He read it and he was like, "Oh, you're a military spouse. Oh, you do content. I really love to, support the community and would love to hire you as our content director." And I was like, "I don't even know what this really means, so I'll give it a shot." And that kind of set me off into the content marketing, content world. And I kind of bounced around in that area for a while before going to a sort of bridge role at the Association for Talent Development. It was in L&D, so I was kind of getting that learning and development, but also using my content skills, but also facilitating and organizing events and doing all kinds of fun things with these coaches and learning professionals. And so it really helped kind of solidify my journey into coaching and into this space more.
Wow. Okay, I see. I think, obviously that was, the pre chat GPT
Oh,
era
yes.
where,
Hmm.
it takes, you know, hours or even days to churn out, well-written articles. So
Hmm.
I've always been fascinated by how people don't get bored of writing content year after year because, you might have best-selling authors, who write a
Hmm.
book, but they don't do that, full time, or, even if they do, it might be only for a few months. And, after that, they're on about their new project. But, as a full-time, content writer, how did you find the motivation to keep yourself going?
Yeah, well, actually, I feel like there's just a ton of variety in content marketing, which I really enjoyed from the switch of journalism. And I will say that, there are a lot of people that do writing full time, all the time, every day, books, articles, anything, and now it definitely has become more of a variety because now you need to kind of be a jack of all trade in content. Like you can't just write, you also have to know how to do video, and you also have to know how to do some sound editing, and you need to know all these tools and softwares and everything. So it's a little bit different. But content marketing too, I felt like it was so creative and you had such a variety of forms that you could use and topics you could chase, that there's a never ending stream of ideas, if you're good at it. Plus, after a while, I mean, I was still always writing, but I kind of got to the level where it was more strategy and like, directing and managing. So while I did wind up doing a lot of the writing here and there to fill in, it wasn't like I was writing every day all day long. Yeah.
I see, I see. So, how do you think your content career helped, establishing your own coaching institute?
Yeah, I would say that well, communication skills is always very helpful, right?
Yeah,
And while I'm good at writing, I feel like I communicate better when I'm just kind of thinking out loud with people. So that really helps with coaching because, as someone's talking, I am a little bit I don't want to say scatterbrained, but I have lots of different voices going on in my head about like what could this mean, why this word, what is the connotation there. So having had that communication background really helps with input and like generation of new ideas or avenues for where people are going with what they're talking about during the session.
I see. So communication is definitely, I think, a common theme in your career, from journalism to
Sure.
content to, the coaching work that you're doing. So, can you tell us, how you set up your coaching institute? Because I think that was only a few months ago.
Yeah, and I just want to clarify that like I'm not exactly an institute, more as a freelance or
Right, right.
coach by myself. So I'm not like taking on new people, although maybe one day, you never
Yeah,
know,
maybe
right?
one day. Yeah.
Um yeah. But yes, so I feel like I missed the question because I was thinking about that.
Oh, no problem. Yeah, I was
Sorry.
asking, you started your coaching company a few months ago. So,
Yes.
how did you get to that point? And,
Yeah.
was it a risky move on your side to take?
Oh yeah, sure, definitely. Well, definitely was a little bit risky.
Yeah.
I was working at an e-learning platform and I had been through a number of reorganizations at the company, and I was just kind of feeling like a little bit like maybe the skill sets and the hopes and dreams that I had come to the company with were not going to be met any longer. And so I started to really re-examine, okay, I'm in this pathway for myself and I'm doing the coaching on the side. I got my certification. I'm build up some clientele. I have lots of connections in this area. So should I just try to make the leap and go into this area that I know is very fulfilling for me? And so after, talking with my husband about finances and all that kind of stuff to make sure everything would be kosher there, I jumped ship, and yeah, it's been Incredible, since I really have to say that the networks that you provide, they're not just, out there as people that you can reach out to. They're also people that are just willing to create like a net underneath you to help you along the way. So it's just been incredible, the outpouring of like support and referrals and things like that that have happened. I I'm not like a super religious person or anything, but I feel like there's some kind of universe telling me that this was the right move, because things have just, I
Mm.
wouldn't say they're like incredibly easy, but they just feel like this is the right pathway because things keep coming around.
Yeah, I think it's always surprising sometimes, when, as humans, we find that others are helpful as well, because it might be human nature to sometimes be a bit selfish. But at the same
Hmm.
time, a lot of people actually do enjoy helping others, and you just have to get
Yeah,
the word out, for people to help you. So
totally.
you also mentioned, that you had your finances sorted to make sure you're ready to make this jump as well as your network. Um, what is the most important factor, or are there any decisive factors that convince you in the end that I should jump ship?
Hmm. Yeah. So, having done career coaching on the side for a while,
Mhm.
it's like I started coaching myself, right? How many hours a day am I actually feeling energized by my work? And how am I feeling at the end of the day? Do I feel like more fulfilled and better human than I did when I started the week or the day? So things like that played in. And then, of course, I never, promote to anybody that they should just leave their job without another job in place. And
Yeah.
that's something that, I had to make sure that we were like financially viable. We have children, we have expenses, lots of things going on all the time. So definitely the financial situation has to be set before you can consider
Right.
leaving a very big, steady paycheck behind.
So, yeah, obviously a lot of factors to decide, whether to actually
Yeah.
quit your job and start a business. So now that you are, not just coaching yourself, you're taking on, clients as well. How would you advise people to take a balance between, um, you know, doing what they love and perhaps, doing what they don't love as much, which means they're 9 to 5 jobs for a lot of people.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's funny because I always think back to like being in Italy. There was you say like I do this job, like I have work and I do this job, but you never say like I am this, job. And in
Mm,
America, it's like this concept of, well, I am what I do for a living, like I am a doctor or I am a coach. It's not like I practice coaching or I do coaching, And so I think there's a little bit of that in the culture here, that like whatever you're doing, that is your entire being. And so I think to like take a step back and realize like, okay, you only have to really be energized and like love what you're doing maybe 20-30% of the day, and then the rest of the time it doesn't have to be like, oh, I adore everything about this job. And I think that's one of the things too that people always misconstrue too, is that if you're doing what you love doing, or you're doing what you like doing, even, that you're not going to feel like it's work. Well, no, that I think that's like horse crap, really. Like it's going to be some work, you're going to have to do some things you don't want to do. Like, don't really want to go around creating like one pagers about myself and things like that, but you have to do it because
mm,
you need more business, or their paperwork. And a lot of people who are consulting don't like to sell themselves,
mm.
so there's a lot of things that you have to do that you don't necessarily want to do, but that's going to be in any job. So the balance, I think, Marcus Buckingham, he says like 20-30% of your day has to be energizing for you. You just like lose yourself in your work and you're happy about what you're doing. I really believe that that is true. Like 20-30% of the day. The rest of the day can be, a little bit more of the drudge, but as long as you're getting like really energized that part of the day, then you're good to go.
So, for people who might be looking to change jobs or people who might be looking to start, their careers,
Mhm.
how would you advise them to find the most suitable industry, to get into?
Yeah. Yeah, the industry is different, right? Because sometimes you could like I'll just take the learning and development professionals because I've been working with them for a while. They a lot of them can jump from industry to industry. They could jump from like manufacturing, doing almost the same thing that they're doing now, and put it into a retail position or something. So I think as long as you're using the skills that really help, for your sake, like energize you. If you're a personality that needs to be in a group of people, 20-30% of the week, that you're doing that. If you're the type of person that needs to be by themselves 60% of the time, that you're doing, those kinds of roles that are really fit for your personality, and then that are bringing out your strengths. Like, I'm a big believer in the Clifton Gallup strengths finders. I think they just call them strengths now.
Right.
But I do believe that, yeah, if you're using those strengths for yourself, that you're in your daily work, then you're going to do your best work, but you're also going to excel faster than perhaps somebody who's not using their strengths. So yeah, I think maybe necessarily the industry, but like the role and the types of things that you're doing are really fitting you as a person, which is, so individualized, of course, because we're all individuals. So it's just very, it has to be kind of tailored to you.
Because a lot of people, it's very normal nowadays to change jobs after 2 or 3 years, or even change industries. But when this does occur, um, it can cause quite a lot of stress to people due to the uncertainty
Mhm.
involved. So I'm not sure if we can draw any parallels between you jumping ship from a corporate role to starting your business and people perhaps switching jobs in their careers. Like what are the
Oh, yeah.
like what are the factors that people need to decide when they switch jobs?
Yeah, well, I think it depends on a lot of things, like why you're switching your job, right? Like, are you switching your job because you've kind of hit that S curve plateau, that you are bored, you've been doing the same thing for, 10, 5, whatever years, and it's almost like rote memorization at that point. It's just so routine, you're just so bored, you don't have a challenge. So to jump to a new challenge could be like you getting a promotion, it could be jumping to a new company, it could be a little bit more of that step up, but like in another role almost. So it could depend a lot on why you're jumping. If you're jumping because of a boss, or a culture at an organization, you can almost go through the stages of grief when you're doing a big change like that. You can feel like angry, you could feel sad, you have to have acceptance and all these other things that go along with a big change in your life. But yeah, I think a lot depends on why you're switching, and then stopping to re-examine, like, is this move that I'm about to do the best way forward, and coaches can help with that, mentors can help with that, coaching yourself can help with that. Lots of different ways that you can go about deciding if making the shift is the best way forward for you, or maybe it's not. Maybe it's waiting a little while and working within the role or the company that you have to just change a few things, and then maybe you would feel a little bit more fulfilled or better. So people's initial reaction a lot of the times is like, I just need to get out of here. I need to get out of here. I need to get away from this boss or this role or this company. And sometimes it can help just to think, okay, maybe a few months, maybe even a year, like, how can I change something so that I feel a little bit better about what I'm doing or where I'm doing it, and then I can really gain the skills or the professional development or whatever it is to then make a better jump out.
Yeah, I always feel that, irrational thoughts like, a bad boss or a bad colleague and, making an immediate career switch could come back to bite a lot of people. because you aren't really thinking of a higher purpose in life, I guess, and how your career fits into that. I always find that, for people to have commitment, there has to be something more than just money, or more than just something they don't want, such as a bad boss, in a new job. And for their careers to have a higher purpose in terms of how their jobs can benefit the community, so that you're not just working for yourself. So, based on your experience, would you say, that's like a similar case? Like, do you see a lot of clients, who don't have a higher purpose, and those are the ones that might struggle a bit, in their careers?
Yeah, I think people are getting more mission driven nowadays. I do feel like, yes, inherently we all want is what is best for ourselves, and our unit and our family, which is fine. There's nothing wrong to say that, like, just giving your best self to the world is not enough, because then, you're a more productive and happy human. That's great. At the end of the day, that's great. You're not doing
Yeah.
anything bad for society at that point. That's great. But yeah, I think that people, especially the younger generations, are coming up, are more purposeful driven. So they want to know that companies have a mission. What is their stake in this mission? How can they help to create like a better world and a better, society? So I think that people are becoming more conscious of that. And I think that people who are not forced into a job transition, because there's a lot of people that I deal with that are going through like outplacement, and they're, in a job transition that they didn't necessarily pick for themselves. So they're a little bit different. But the people who I coach that have done it on their own volition and are wanting a change are usually doing it with that in mind of, I'm at a certain spot in my life and I want to either give back more, or I want to find something that makes me a better person for the rest of, my community, my family, my universe.
Right, I see. Yeah, I think people might be a bit more mission driven nowadays. I'm not sure if it's because of relative wealth that society has nowadays, that is
Mm-hmm.
leading people to look for something else in their lives. So, just finally before we end, do you have any advice for people who are at the moment, really struggling, in their jobs? They might, have a bad boss. They might actually want to make an immediate switch. Any processes that you have in helping people make a more perhaps scientific judgment um, about when about if they should stay or if they should leave?
Yeah, I think that it is, yeah, it's definitely so if you have a toxic boss or a toxic work environment, definitely that is, if you're financially able, you just got to go, because there's no one person that's going to be able to change all of that. That has to be like, you have to be very committed and working with HR like this to change something like that. So that might be in your best interest to leave. If you have and there's a lot of different types of difficult or challenging bosses. So if it's somebody that at the end of the week, you don't have anxiety just fill you up with any conversation that you're having with them, then there's a glimmer of hope. What can you learn from this boss? There are certain books. There's one by Mary Abijay that comes to mind called Managing Up. And that's a great book. It has all the different types of bosses that are difficult to work with and how you can work with them. So yeah, I would say that if you're spending more than 20% of or 30% of your week like really stressed out to the point where it's affecting your sleep, your health, and your other relationships, then it's time to definitely go. If it's not at that level yet, then there is some hope, and there are resources out there to help you kind of figure out how you can learn from that boss and then work within that boss or that culture to gain what you need to be able to then leave at in a better spot than where you are now. But yeah, if you're hitting that 30% where you are just, yeah, not sleeping, not eating well, not being a overall healthy human, then it's time to go.
Yeah, so the overall lesson, I guess, is once you hit that 30% mark, then perhaps it's time for you to consider something else. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's been a great time, talking to you, Lisa. Wish you all the
You
best
too.
in your career coaching business. And
Thank you.
remember, do subscribe to the Meaningful Jobs podcast, and I'll be including Lisa's career coaching company. The link, will be on the description, so you guys can check it out. So thanks again, Lisa, for coming to the podcast, and wish you have a great day.
Yeah, you too.
Thank you. Bye.